Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today I'm so honored to be here with Karen and Sabrina from Sabrina Levine PR. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
We're very excited to get into this conversation. These two are real powerhouses in the New York City area. Ladies, I'd love to start out just by hearing from both of you just about your story, about your personal stories, about how you got to where you are today at this point in your career. You know, we talk a lot about just the weaving in between the life strategy side of things and the business strategy side and how your story comes together. And so, Sabrina, I'd love to start with you and just hear a little bit about your background.
Sure, of course. And I'm going to start by saying one thing. The firm was Sabrina Levine Public Relations when I first started, but I found out that in all the years of doing business that we don't just do PR, that we're actually communication experts, and changed the name to Sabrina Levine Communications because I feel like we end up doing communicating to all audiences in so many ways. And so it's a little bit tricky sometimes, but super exciting that we are a communications agency. So I started years ago, and my first job out of college was working with Karen, Amster-Young, at a boutique agency she had just started called Amster-Young Public Relations. Karen was my mentor and really taught me everything I know. She had a
I don't know about that, but
she had a catch PR background. And basically, she taught me that strategy and that process that's so critical in servicing accounts in a real strategic way. And so I was so happy after being there with her for 7 years to have been able to work so closely as her right hand on accounts and gathering and learning all of those details about servicing an account in the world of PR. Following Karen Karen and I worked on really exciting projects, and one of those projects was Fiji Water. And during that time, my best friend from college was Lizzie Grubman, and we were actually collaborating a lot with her agency. And putting Fiji Water at all of her events. And she would be giving us Sky Vodka or other brands she had launched for our events. And so it was kind of a natural next step that once I had really mastered all of more of the corporate training, that I had joined and partnered with Lizzie for 13 years, where she really taught me that celebrity buzz lifestyle hustle, which was a very different kind of PR. And what I learned in all of my years of training is that they both very much complement each other, and that I have these win-win experiences of making me the publicist and founder of my agency today.
Love that. Thanks so much for sharing, Sabrina. Oh, I love that. And it's so cool how your stories weave together. So Karen.
Well, yeah, she was definitely like integral to the growth of my agency. From the second I met her, one of the things Sabrina and I talk about is so many people, especially today, but even back then, don't understand that 1 minute you might be making coffee for someone, and then the next minute you're in a high level competitive pitch with, a presentation. And when you have that attitude from day one, for any, entrepreneurs, and I think they share this feeling, but so many millennials today especially don't really understand that you don't start your career as a vice president, that you have to be willing to, take out the garbage, like I said, and then you could be sitting, particularly with boutique agencies, then you could be sitting in a very high-powered meeting and learning from, other people in your agency as well as the client. And I think that's a very special quality that not everybody has. So Sabrina was right there with me. We really built the agency a good deal together. And Fiji Water, as she mentioned, we were their first agency of record, which before anyone even knew what that square bottle was. And that's why one door opens another door. So when I was looking for my first office space and I couldn't even afford it because I was in my apartment, I bartered with a client, so he would give me office space, and in exchange, we would do his PR. And they were like a marketing, packaging, display company for everything, major displays in retail environments. So he gave me the office space. Sabrina, that's where we were kind of working from, right?
In-house.
And then he in-house, and then he introduced us to Fiji, and that's where our bottle was in the middle of the table, and we were their first agency of record for 5 years, I think. So that's a little bit kind of sharing my background, but kind of taking over where Sabrina had mentioned also about our work on that account, which was so exciting.
I love that. That is so awesome. I actually am really excited about this episode because I am certainly not an expert in this realm, right? So I really focus on just digital marketing strategy and helping people understand their clients really well and develop strategies to be able to speak to them in the way that they want to be spoken to, right? But the world of public relations and broader communications, I'm looking forward to hearing about some of your work together, right? Your love for strategy at the heart. I think we share that, right? We all share that love for strategy, putting things together, collaborations. Can you guys tell me about some of the collaborative work that you've done and really what that looks like in terms of strategy when it comes to PR and communication?
When we were launching Fiji Water, at that time, we were also doing promotions for Radu, the fitness expert's book. And we were also helping create awareness and launch Hampton Luxury Liner, which was like the luxury jitney at the time. The jitney didn't have all those fancy luxury buses. And in order to, when you go and pitch a story, reporters are like, I don't want it to be so product specific. Help me create a well-rounded story. So we would take anywhere from like 10 to 15 editors on the Hampton Luxury Liner to the Hamptons to spend a day with Radu, kayaking, and then have a beautiful lunch where the editors learned about health and hydration, sponsored by Fiji. And that time in that transitional mode when we were on the liner gave us the ability to sit down and network and really forge great relationships with the different media contacts and helped us help them craft those stories, positioning different experts, not only our clients, but experts that would be valuable. So I think making sure that you're always a valuable resource to whoever you're working with as well. And so that was kind of how we really started working in building partnerships and strategy. And it was way before it really existed today. Now it's like a no-brainer concept that everybody does.
It's very interesting because way before social media, Sabrina and I really saw the value of bringing brands together with other brands that complement one another and communicate similar values and similar messages. And so it kind of helps in so many ways because like Sabrina said, the press is appreciating and respecting you because you're not just saying this water or this client is the best brand in the world. They're getting an opportunity to speak to numerous people to round out their story, as Sabrina said. But then you also have the synergies in terms of partnerships and how it can be a win-win for those brands. And that works with nonprofits too. So it's very important. Like today, a lot of companies are starting and they have their brands with a message and it's very integral to who they're about. But who you align with is extremely important. So like Bombas socks is a great example. They give for every pair and we don't work with them. I would love to though. For every pair that they sell, they give a pair to the homeless. So they did that from day one. Whereas when we were first starting, years ago, we would often, and we still do, help clients decide which nonprofit makes the most sense for them to align with. Is it consistent with what the CEO is passionate about? Is it in line with their brand? Like if it's a wellness brand, it should be perhaps a health-related nonprofit. So bringing those kind of teams, companies and organizations together with a picture of the bigger strategy and the reason for that is something we love and something that's very important. And it really needs to be credible because consumers are smart. So if they feel like it's not genuine, and they won't buy into it. So it could impact sales and their awareness and the awareness of the company. So I think that's really some good, important points. And when we were putting these advisory boards together and bringing people from outside the brand to be a part of that company, it just opens up all these tentacles for events, activations, same thing, media, like we said, other message points for communicating to all audiences, whether it's consumers or And that's so important to talk about too. It's not just about the press. It's all the different groups that our clients are trying to reach, investors, the business, other business, industry peers, as well as consumers. So,
okay.
yeah.
So I love that overview, because that really gives me a lens into what you mean by PR versus the broader communications message. I think you just broke it down right there, which was so great. And I love the connection. I love the vision that you both have for the overarching strategy and not just one piece of it. Because when we work with clients, sometimes sometimes you have to bring them like back up to the overarching level, depending on who you're working with within an organization, to say, hey, this isn't just one piece. Like, this isn't just one series of, social media messaging, or just one, right? There's a whole ecosystem here, and that ecosystem influences everything else, right? In every level of
and Sabrina's amazing in that if she's not passionate about the client, and we both often laugh, like, we rather turn down business than kind of, it has to be someone who shares. We want to educate them, but shares the understanding that people aren't usually going to be in the New York Times the next day. There's a process to the entire communication strategy that we develop. And that's why we often, even doing short-term assignments, you have to be very specific. What are you going to achieve in that short-term assignment? But ideally, you want a period of time. You don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. You want at least a 6 month to a year program to achieve all of your objectives.
It's really hard to measure results if you do less than that. And because we are proposing a multi-pronged approach about reaching the media, reaching consumers, reaching influencers, celebrities, then there's investors and business. So we almost outline a strategy for each of them, and they're all in different ways. And sometimes the messaging changes. So this multi-pronged approach isn't always happening all at once. It's very strategic and thought out in order of importance. And so I think that once our client sees our value in being able to communicate all of these audiences, a lot of times we really become almost a communications extension of their brand and end up working together for many years. And I love that Karen says we have to be passionate, because it's funny, I think that authentic work is the most important kind of work. And if I can't go out there and pitch you like I feel like I love you, that not being authentic, you could tell. And normally I'm so overly passionate that I'm beyond.
Oh my God, Sabrina has like parties at her house.
Okay, did you like invest in the company?
Yeah, they become part of her family for sure. And I think that that's really also something that makes your agency stand out. A more recent example, Lauren, if is Stay Marquee, which is a high-end, a luxury vacation rental platform in the Hamptons that we've been working on together for a few years. So we can put aside the old Fiji example for a moment. And a lot of the same strategies and thinking gets applied today in what we've achieved for them, and hope to continue bringing great brands to their homes, which is one of the things that we're working on for them right now, is bringing luxury and other brands to people in their rental home so they can experience it right in their own kitchen or their own bedroom. So it could be a pillow that they put in the houses if it's a major design or retailer that wants to have more exposure for their products and their design services. And then it might be a new coffee in the kitchen. So partnering Stay Marquee's rental for their guests, they refer to them as guests, for their renters, with these brands, we hope to, that's another more current and very relevant in today's times example of how we're bringing clients together with companies for mutual benefit.
I love that example, because I can totally picture myself on vacation, right? Staying at, one of the properties, walking in, wanting something a little bit different, and being delighted when there's a new kind of coffee, or when there's something, it just adds so much value because there's that delight factor. And, I'm big on the delight factor. So I feel
it's
like
all about experiential too now. And, being able to taste, smell, or see something right there. And it's even more timely, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, but it was a growing trend before this.
Yeah, and that's funny because I was just going to ask you all, what are you seeing right now in the market? Like, what's what's top of mind for the clients that you're working with. So experiential is big, right? People want to really
Definitely.
experience the products, but what else, what other trends are you seeing right now?
Just to, yeah, with experiential, it's funny because of COVID, there's not so many large amounts of people, activations and things happening yet while the vaccine rolls out. But what through Stay Marquee, what's so lovely is that we're actually able to reach people at home while they're sheltering at home. So we're able to do that sampling for these big brands that's so valuable to them because their goal is to put their product in the hands of the people they want using them. And so I think that that has been an unbelievable platform for us to have to be able to help other brands gain exposure. You know, it's very funny. I think that social media and digital marketing has become a huge way of reaching consumers, but also just media exposure. It's really a combination of everything and making sure that you hit every bucket because they all support and reinforce each other.
And one of the things, Lauren, that I think is companies still don't understand how indispensable communication strategy is. And unfortunately, well, the smart ones do, but unfortunately, and it's not always their fault, they look at it as sometimes something that they have to cut from their budget. And when they do that, there's ramifications that they end up realizing because, you know, especially with communicating to their audiences, having someone manage that on their behalf ultimately has implications for whether they're doing capital raising, whether they're, you know, trying to increase sales, whatever. And it's very important, you know, people often don't realize the critical, how critical communications management is. And I think that you know, it will continue to, I think, be something they learn and become more sophisticated about. And many of them are, like I said, but unfortunately, when there's a bunch of investors in the room and they're trying to figure out their budgets, you know, sometimes it used to be one of the first things to go. But I think now in this complicated world, it's even more critical for companies to engage experts.
Yeah. And I think with just losing any kind of connection point with the client,
Right.
you know, there's a big downside to that I think can happen subtly, you know, and so I can see what you're saying about, you know, just the importance of a constant communication strategy where they're being proactive about developing that and anticipating the needs also of their clients, you know, and how they're going to interact with them.
Right. I mean, the pandemic was a perfect example. How do you pivot? How do you, such an overused word this year, but it's true. How do you pivot and how do you maintain your client, your customers, if you can't do sampling in store anymore, if you can't do, you know, so many food brands, you know, would have those little samples set up in Whole Foods and other places like that. So working with an agency is really critical to figure that out.
So you all have really been a part of that strategy and, you know, can you give our listeners, like, are there any concrete or tangible examples you can give them of that pivot and how it's worked in this?
Yeah, Sabrina, didn't you do that really fun thing with Wine Client or one of the ones I wasn't working on or any of those examples during the pandemic?
You brought it to them somehow.
Oh, the virtual tastings and things like that.
We did virtual wine tastings that we invited consumers to join in, which was really, I think that the fact that we have this virtual world we live in right now has been really lovely to make everything accessible to everyone, no matter where they are. And so the wine that I've been working with for over 4 years is In Vivo X SJP, and we blended wine virtually.
You kind of just went through that SJP, so that's Sarah Jessica Parker.
Right? Yeah, let's not skip over that part.
So for the wine, the way that we created exposure was not only rolling out new vintages as they were ready and tackling the headache of getting them from New Zealand or Provence into the US, but once we had the wine available, being able to do special deliveries to people at home to join our wine tastings, which we did virtually with not only the founders and the wine blenders over in New Zealand, Zealand, but also with Sarah Jessica herself, and inviting media and being able to invite consumers to join. And so that was really special. I don't think that a wine had ever been blended virtually ever before our efforts, where they sent the grapes in small vials to Sarah Jessica, and they actually blended it with like the old school science bleaker kit and came up with the final blend of wine. And so being able to record that and publicize that was fun. Another client, Unova Center, which is an energy healing acupuncture center, one of the most well-renowned, founded by Dr. Jill Blakeway. We actually transitioned there a lot by doing virtual consultations, and our practitioners bought the herbal bars to their homes, where they actually created herbal remedies and tinctures to help people with different conditions, where we were shipping them out to their homes.
Oh God, I didn't even hit you up to get that delivery. I could have used a lot of that.
Yeah. So I feel like different businesses have to pivot based on their customer and based on the consumer's needs, to make sure that you're staying current and in the forefront and building, mutually beneficial relationships.
I mean, but I think what's so cool, Lauren, is that there's still this like tactile element to it. Like back when we worked together at my agency years ago, we were doing special deliveries and often creating custom boxes to have not only old school press materials in, but an actual product sample. And what's so interesting is not everything is social media every second. We're still doing those special deliveries to give the experience of sampling and tasting, and that hasn't changed. So people who think they can just build to 1 million followers and have a strategic PR campaign, they're absolutely wrong. I mean, they have to, I always said this, they have to have the unifying thread between now, including social media, critical, but all the way to the old school tools that are still effective today. Some aren't, we're not faxing anything to anyone, but we're totally, what?
Let's hope that doesn't come back.
No, I know, I'm laughing. But in terms of the sample boxing and making people feel special, and Sabrina she's always had an eye for that. It's almost like she's a designer, and putting that together so it arrives at a celebrity's house or an influencer's house or a target customer's house in this beautiful way, even if we had to put Perel with it this year, is the most, I think it's so important and still effective.
It's a combination.
Yeah, it's like analog and digital kind of old, I love it. So that gets us really excited.
It's funny because I feel like we were doing the influencer and celebrity seeding and tactics before social media even came, where now a lot of people are basing campaigns on celebrity and influencer posts and paying them. Back in the day, when we were rolling out AG jeans, and Adriano Goldschmidt had transformed, we bought the rights to his jean company, changed the name to AG, and then rebranded and launched and opened up all this pop-up standalone stores in each city. We were deciding who is our best model to go out and show that these are the only jeans to have and wear. And we identified like 50 celebrities or influencers at the time, whether it was the morning show host to the Desperate Housewives at the time to Oprah, and every season we would take all the new jeans and all the new washes and send them to that list of 50 celebrities. And every time you saw them photographed in Us Weekly, a lot of them were wearing AG, not because we paid them, because we were gifting them, because we wanted our product to be in the hands of who we wanted wearing them. And then Oprah put it on the O list, and it was really just about getting your product in those hands. And it's funny because social media didn't really exist, and now to see how social media has transformed and how people are doing what we did a long time ago, I feel like in a way we were very much pioneers.
Yes.
Looking from the outside in, I feel like it's that combination of clients are leveraging your brain powers, right? So they get extra brain power, they get your creativity and strategy to put those collaborations together. But then they also get the communications piece, which is probably the way that you packaged it, the note that you put in it, the way that you send it, right? So all of that matters. So that's the part that can actually make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And, you know, and I skipped over, and you could stop me, you know, if you don't, I never said how Sabrina and I reconnected, so we can always circle back to that if you want.
Oh,
But
yeah. Let's hear it. I love it.
no, I just kind of skipped over that. So I'm also a writer for magazines and newspapers, just freelance, you know, when I get assignments and or have something to pitch to editors. And there was Avenue Magazine, which I was writing an article about vintage luxury goods. And Sabrina had at that time been, and still, I don't even remember, for years you represented What Goes Around Comes Around, which is
for
one of the
5
top,
years.
5 years, one of the top vintage luxury goods that they had. God, I don't know, 5 locations at one time, and they still have a huge thriving online business. And I interviewed Sabrina. I contacted Sabrina, and she, of course, arranged the interviews with the founders who were her clients. And that's how I kind of got the story, and I wrote the story. So that was really how we reconnected, and we kept collaborating, whether it was my journalism or whether it was a project that we worked on together. And then we made it more formal a few years ago, where it's interesting how it comes full circle. So now I'm working for her agency, and we finish each other's sentences often. And we probably said the word absolutely too many times together today, but we sometimes I think as you get older, you realize there's certain people you just love working with, and that you kind of gravitate back to in your career. So since then, I focus a lot on, higher end strategic advisory work for her clients, working on some accounts and new business together with her. So it's really fun. And that's how we reconnected. And we're always been, and we have a long friendship because of that, these years as well. So.
Yeah, that's so wonderful.
Absolutely. I think what's most exciting about Karen and I working together is that we have so many years of history, and we both are equally as excited about the projects we work on. And we both have great ideas that are fun, brainstorming and bouncing off each other to come up with really creative ideas and news hooks, and making sure that our client knows that we're giving them, 150% of both of us. And so
and listen, it's not always a love fest. We're like an old married couple sometimes. But I think those are the most effective relationships. We complement each other very well. We have differences of opinion, and we'll both go head to head on, sometimes I feel differently than her, but I think clients benefit from that because they're kind of getting 2 senior strategists who come at things a little bit differently and really work well together.
Usually what emerges from that is good. So that's great. Healthy conflict. It's healthy conflict. It's so necessary and good. Is there any particular advice or just aspect of public relations and communications and all of your work that you would just want to share with other entrepreneurs and founders, and nonprofits? If you could give them just any kind of advice or tangible takeaway that you might recommend for them, what would it be?
So one thing I say often in all areas of life, it's like my go-to slogan is knowledge is power. And so I feel like in order to be good publicists, you have to research, read, consume, listen very carefully to everything. And I think that's really important. Every day my team, they start their day by Googling every industry we represent, sharing articles, making sure we're in the know about what the editors are writing, if new editors are writing about one of our clients' beats, so to speak. And I think that knowledge is power. Additionally, on the flip side, just knowing certain things and not always letting everyone know that gives you power in negotiating and navigating results that you may want to achieve, whether it be for yourself or for your client. And so I think that that's really important. When you know a lot, you position yourself as a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I always feel, especially for entrepreneurs, I mean, you either have this or you don't. There are some lessons in life that I'm still learning, especially my personal life. But with business, for whatever reason, I never felt rejected from no's. like I said, some of my friends are way beyond me in other areas, but if they don't get a job that they're interviewing for, they like go into the bed and watch Netflix for 3 days. And for whatever reason, I was always, a no just made me wanted heart more, you know. And Sabrina kind of is like that too. She's got that hustle, and we're like, we wanted to be in new business pitches, even if we didn't get it, because that means you have to look at the positives of that. Is if you're in that company, then that means you belong there. And those other agencies might call you because they can't handle an account 3 months from now that is a conflict of interest for them. So you've met them, you've been in the room with them. They know you were good enough to be competing or be in the finals for that particular account, even if you ultimately don't get it. So I guess I would just say, don't let rejections ever stop you, is one of my big takeaways. Keep trying. You know, the New York Times recently, as a writer, I've gotten rejected from the New York Times numerous times for Tiny Love Story, which is just this 100-word competitive section. They get thousands of submissions a week. It took a major pandemic and other major things in my life, which I'll leave for the next, when my appearance on Dr. Phil next week, that I finally got a yes. And I don't know if it was just the timing or it was, you know, but that was probably my third or fourth submission at least. So it just made me want it more. And so same with clients. And if you're building an agency, you know, just wake up every day and move on. If it's not a good match and they chose not to choose your agency, it's okay. You know, there's benefits to that too, really.
Encouraging. I think that's really encouraging to remember, because there are days where it gets exhausting, you know, it gets tiring doing, you know, fighting the good fight, right? So,
well, it's 24/7 world now. And I always, you know, it's very hard to set up those boundaries, and you can read endless. I'm sure this is no news to anybody, but it's really important to make those boundaries, particularly the last year and how the world's going to continue working. I think at least a good part at home, you know, and otherwise you can burn out. I mean, there's many famous people who have written books about their burnout. I think Arianna Huffington recently wrote, you know, she changed her whole course and really encouraged a lot of people. She was exhausted. And so, you know, taking time for yourself, closing the office when you need to. Sabrina's religious. She works 24/7, but that week between Christmas and New Year's, and I started that, I think, right, Sabrina?
Yes. I got that from you.
I know, but I think, you know, maybe it sounds common now, but, you know, when you're running an agency, you always feel like your door has to be open. And it's very important to, not even just between Christmas and New Year's, when you need to shut down, you shut down, and you shut down 100%, except of course, 24/7, our clients need to call us. We're not going to ignore it, but, you know, when the office is closed, so to speak, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know, media and people take off during the holidays, and there's no reason that we need to be working from Christmas Eve to New Year's Day. Everybody deserves a break to refresh and feel good for that next year or next set of challenges that come. You know, I'll go back also with saying that I think that you should work on what you love and respect and want to. I think that it can be really apparent in the work that you do if you're passionate about your clients. And I think sometimes when clients have come to us and just started with a 6-month commitment or a year, and now our roster is every client is from 2 to 5 years, our clients, it shows that they really become an extension of our company, and that's why, and they become our family. And I feel like that's the best work that we do, is because we have that relationship. And it's funny, clients will say, I only picked you because you say no to me and you like argue with me. And they're like, so then we know like you're giving me good advice because you're not just yesing me and doing what I want. And I'm like, of course I'm not. You don't know, I know. I'm going to tell you what you should do in this area, which hopefully helps them in the end while they build their businesses.
Yeah, I love that. It's valuable. They know that you'll be honest with them. And I think your passion for, you know, both of you, you know, wanting to be passionate about the clients that you take on. And if you're not passionate about it, you know, it's not a project for you. And I think there's something to be said for that, you know, that you're willing to discern that and let that go if it's not working. So
yes, definitely. And also like Sabrina was saying no to them, you know, quick last example is, people say, oh, all publicity is good, it's the wrong expression, all publicity is good publicity, but it's also important to slow down sometimes, because if you get a new food client into the food section of the New York Times and there's no distribution yet, or there's no availability for consumers, it can really backfire. So sometimes, when you're excited and you're getting a product out and you're asking your agency, we want to get this publicity and this publicity, Sabrina and I will say, no, do you have distribution in that area? The last thing you want to do is alienate consumers before you've even gotten them as loyal customers. If they can't find the product or buy the product,
Yep.
What good was that? So that's another thing, is slow down sometimes and really think about your strategy.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Wise words. Thank you both so much for
You're
being here.
very
So honored to
welcome.
have both of you, and looking
Thank
forward
you.
to just continuing the conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.